Captain's log. It is 3 a.m. Insomnia is a bitch. Coming to you live in my pajamas in my living room. Might as well make the best of a sleepless night. Got my laundry going in the other room. So got a little rhythm in the background for me to work with. If that's what we want to do today, what do we want to do? Asking me, myself, and I. Do we want to do something rhythmic or just something weird? Let me just go into my audio rack set of rack presets. Sleep. There's a good one. Something I made a long time ago that I can, when I'm traveling, play and put some headphones on and easily fall asleep. Something about white noise. Maybe I should have tried that tonight. But my brain is too wired, and I'm going to make the best of it with this sketchsploration6. So yeah, white noise, for some reason, for me, works really well to help sort of nod off the, I guess, brain. And so yeah, it's pretty much like I've shown in some others, just some other sketches, crackle turned up on the vinyl distortion, run through a vocoder, and then on this one I put an EQ to warm it up and some controls so I can control the volume of it. Turquoise noise, call it that for now. And if you open this session, you can just hit this save button and you can name it whatever you want, but be able to pull it back in later. So that's convenient. I'll go ahead and delete that. And I think I want to just pull down the gain there and pull up the scale a little bit. Kind of brighten it up. Cool. So I think I had this idea the other day. One thing I really like to do, I'm going to bust out a old school VST that I love called ktgranulator. And there's a lot of cool presets here. One thing I like to do is just kind of thrash through presets. I love ktgranulator. It does some really nutty stuff. Not too many plugins honestly like it. You can find some stuff in Reactor kind of like it. ktgranulator is no longer offered. It used to be a freebie, but the developer, Cohen, he has since sort of converted this into a new plugin called Salty Grain, which is pretty much the same thing, plus a few extra bells and whistles. Way more presets, got a few from Richard Devine here. It's pretty powerful stuff. I recommend it, but this is a paid-for plugin. Unfortunately, the project here, when I include that in with the download, the free download on the YouTube page, you won't be able to. I won't be including in the VST plugin files. So most of these you can find online, most of the ones I will be using, but this is one he does not offer anymore. But I'm just using it in this case to demonstrate how I love to just get some weird sound designs by thrashing through presets. You can just hold down the up or down arrow key basically, and go ahead and add a auto pan that I've converted into a tremolo. So Ableton has this cool feature where you can change a program change inside of a clip. And one thing I've always wanted to do is be able to control plugins, presets via that. Unfortunately, it only works if the plugin itself is set up to accept MIDI program change messages. Unfortunately, ktgranulator, like so many out there, are not set up that way. So for example, program 1, 2, program 3, and I will add follow actions to play random, and you have to route the MIDI into the plugin. Now, ktgranulator does take pitch, so you can set it up to be able to play pitches with the keyboard, but you can't change presets. Some plugins are really good about letting you do this. Native Instruments are awesome for letting you change presets via MIDI program changes coming in. So if you're playing live, something like MIDI program changes is hella useful when you want to switch programs per song or in the middle of a song. I just wish all plugin developers would add that kind of stuff in. Arturia is also really good for that kind of thing. So yeah, you can see it's not doing anything when we change presets. Guitar rig is one word that it will work on. So you can see here now it's animating. So you could have just, you know, all the presets in a bunch of clips. One thing I like to do is, let's see, I've got this Max for Live patch that I edited down a little bit. It's basically, there was a program change one that I found on the Max for Live site, and I just edited it to only send program change messages because this patch was sending, you know, everything all at once, program change, sub, and bank. So that was causing some weird issues with Guitar Rig. It's pretty basic stuff under the hood. You know, you just have this MIDI parse, and it's basically just filtering out the program change message. So that's all that's allowed to go through. So let me turn this off and route the MIDI from this track in the Guitar Rig. So now we can have a clip here. Yeah, sounds like the plugin is just struggling to keep up. So sometimes, you know, it's better to, you know, make this program switches happen a little more or less frequent. Go ahead and move this one past. I would love to be able to do the same thing with ktgranulator. So I did a little research the other day as I was kind of stewing over this idea of how can I take these plugins that don't accept MIDI program change messages, but then they have a ton of cool presets. How can I leverage that? So I'm going to load up a Max for Live effect, a blank one. I am surprised that I'm even having this much cognitive clarity at this hour. Alright, where are we going here? I am not a super expert with, admittingly, with Max for Live. So I think it is VST, yeah. Give it to me. There we go. Now, I think we want to, let's see, have a message, and I believe it's open, and we need the directory pointing to our VST plugin. So let's see. plugins. Here we go. Copy as path. And this is unfortunately like, oh, I don't know what the equivalent is on a Mac. So you can right click on a plugin and choose, with holding down the shift key, right click on the plugin and choose copy as path. And so then when I go in here and add to this message, you can see the path to the plugin. Oh, that's weird. So I forgot. Yeah, it removes the slashes. Max has some interesting syntax. You basically have to add double slashes for whatever reasons. And there it goes. All right, so let's try that. Since I'm presentation mode, or it's unlocked, I'm going to hold down Control and click. And we should have seen the window pop open for the plugin, but ooh, that's a lot of junk there. Let's see. Try that again. Add arguments for message open. Let's see. That's the thing I love about Max for Live is you can right click on just about anything and get a nice set of help with examples. Select and load a plugin plug. Okay, open, okay. Okay, I wish Reactor had that same right click and help on any object with examples. That would be, oh, so much easier. Reactor is way more, I think, esoteric and unintuitive versus Max. I think a lot of people might beg to differ with me on that, but anyway, so plug. And then we need another message for open. Says me. Cool. And if I remember correctly, we can add in, let me just turn this down, this cacophony. Sounds like somebody's in the kitchen just, you know, throwing pots and pans around. A bit nuts. And we can switch presets with this. Okay, so I think we need to fix a few things here for this knob. Scripting name, presets, long name, presets. Let's see, let's go with integer, modulation mode, absolute. And I think that will do it. There is a lot of ways to tweak stuff in Max for Live. Okay, so at the presentation, Control-Shift-P. Control-Shift-P. Yeah, we got the little red box around there. I think if I remember correctly, we need to choose for the patch as a whole. Open in presentation window. Where are you? Option. Display workspace. So many options. Open in presentation. Cool. Now let's see. This is presentation mode. Let's get all these up here. And I think I just want to put a comment. ktgranulator loader. Control-Shift-P. I really should take the time to memorize more keyboard shortcuts. That makes life so much easier and helps ideas come out so much quicker. I like to use auto hotkey also to make one keystroke fire off a whole bunch of things, keystrokes and etc., mouse clicks even. Auto hotkey, unfortunately, there's no equivalent that I can think of that's quite as deep as auto hotkey for the Mac. There's probably something out there. Haven't used OS X in a while, not since being a graphic designer. And to me, honestly, I've had more stability on Windows with a PC, or I have two Mac laptops and run Windows 7 still on both of them, and it is more stable, and I can somehow get more plugins such as Reactor to run versus on the OS X side. I don't know if there's just more stuff on the OS X side happening in the background that eats up more CPU cycles. I don't know, but Windows for some reason for me has always been less dropouts, more audio stable. Anyway, Tangentville. Where am I going to save this? Let's put it in our Sketchsplorations project folder. And an Max MIDI effect, we'll just choose, you know, this isn't a MIDI, Max MIDI effect, doesn't matter, ktgran, we'll just call it BST, ktgran. And you can basically, okay, did something. Yeah, you can, you know, load this up and open it up and edit this here, this message to be, and I'm sure there's probably a much more robust way, like you could have multiple messages, you could have a max for live number controller that you could save states as. Oh, and then you could basically make a load bang so that it will just open up different plugins, you know, so you could have a lot of favored plugins and it'll only open up the one that you want. There's probably there's better ways to set this up, but I'm doing it the quick way. Let's see, load bang. Yeah, I need to do this so that the next time we load this up, it does load the plugin automatically. Oh, and I guess it makes sense to actually hook the audio up. And I know there's a lot more deep stuff you can do with this VST object and Max. Under the help, there are just so many different sections, you know, lots of stuff you can do with playing with snapshots, state saving, actually editing, you know, exposing the parameters so that you can, you know, automate those in Ableton as well. But for now, I just want to be able to sort of thrash the presets like we're doing with this guitar rig here. This is my workaround for plugins that don't accept MIDI program changes. So if nothing else you can take away from this whole exercise, that, well, it's fun to just kind of mess around with, you know, different presets. Let's go ahead and save this again and see if we can get this to open. Do we get a little window somewhere? Doesn't look like it's doing what we want. Let's see, where's the Max window? Choose functional doesn't understand open Max window sidebar. No format VST exists. Let's see, what is going on here? Okay. I totally just skipped over in my sleepless state that this is the one we want, .64. So ktgranulator is a 32-bit only plugin. I'm running 64-bit Ableton and Max for Live, and so I use JBridge, which is an awesome wrapper for loading 32-bit plugins up into 64-bit DAWs. I guess I could just type 64 dot here. Let's go ahead and save that again. And try this again. We didn't get any errors, so that's good. Voila, there's our GUI window. I also like JBridge too, just quick aside. JBridge, you know, kind of works as a sandbox. So if you have a plugin go down, like crash, it won't, I think most of the time, it does not bring down the whole DAW, which is super useful. I don't know why Ableton doesn't have this functionality sort of built in. But I don't know how many times I've had crashes due to VST plugins. So JBridge is a pretty awesome, cheap solution to wrapping plugins 32-bit to 64-bit, and vice versa, although you don't usually need the latter situation. So let's go ahead and save that, close that down, and sweet, it seems to be working. We pull the window back over here, and I think I'm going to need to automate a little bit. Well, let's get a clip here. So in the glorious pursuit of weird ideas for extrapolating sound designs, preset thrashing is one of my go-to. You know, as you can see, I'm just randomly drawing in a little sort of city skyline. And let's see if we open this back up, you can see it is now jumping presets. Just what we wanted. So I love that this is built into Max for Live. It's definitely something I will be using a ton from here on out as a recent sort of discovery. I love that there's just endless amounts of things you can. There's no end to the amount of things you can try and do. Cool. So I'll go ahead and get rid of this one. And do I want this card here still? Nah. I think maybe we can just move on to actually getting some sounds. Some other weird sounds. Where am I going? What am I doing? I think I want to try a little multi-band effects split. Another go-to thing I like to do. Let's call this low. Oops, wrong button. I like to take it a step further and map the frequency knobs so you can automate those later and get some interesting effects that way. Cool. Now we just have to figure out what we want to put in there. So I could do ktgran. I could just do a whole bunch of ktgranulators. On all the bands. I love multi-band effects. It can take a little while to set them up, to harness them. Yeah, let's go ahead and put different tremolos on each band. Cool, and we can obviously automate the rate here. I think one of these days I'm going to try to figure out how to use auto hotkey to do the functionality of automatically right-clicking, choosing show automation, turning off this unlinked, because I know with auto hotkey you can tell the mouse to jump to certain spots, and then have it click over here and just drag for a random amount of length. I think once I figure that one out, I am going to some things are going to speed up crazy for me. Auto hotkey is for PC one of the most useful script-oriented remapping and macro script keyboard whatever script kind of thing you could possibly imagine, and it's free, so obviously free is always good. that's, you know, that's funny. I actually really wanted to only be, didn't really want to mess with the rate, but I'm kind of mentally an autopilot right now. I'm actually surprised we made it this far, that I haven't just fallen asleep at the wheel. One thing I don't do enough of that I should is just sort of reuse, recycle automations from other areas. Like I could just copy this and bring it over here, paste it in there. Honestly, I just do a lot of arbitrary automation type stuff. Kind of that expressionistic mentality of painting blindfolded or something like that. I did at least finally have the intuition enough to map this to a key and put it, you know, automatically in my template, so it's just mapped when I load the template up. Why some might want to use modulation over automation is a totally personal preference type of thing. I'd say there are definitely benefits to using both together. You know, the more used together, the more, you know, off the wall, Alias work type of rhythmic or unpredictable type stuff you can get to happen. So you can hear just the white noise, or I should say turquoise noise coming through, is providing, you know, some interesting effects run through this multi-band splitter. I think I even want to sparsify these even more. Ktgranulator. Some of the presets are a little wacko. I mean, I probably could take more time to learn which ones are the best and then just only automate to those. You can also create your own set of presets, save them as an FXB file, and have Max for Live load that FXB file for you, so you just have your own special set. I have not gone that far down the rabbit hole with this whole thing yet, but I did read that is something that Max for Live can do, which is pretty sweet. If you really wanted to get sometimes a trick that I do, not really a trick, just more a technique. Let me show automation here on link. Pick an arbitrary length. Turn on my drag automation record. I'll record in automation here. And copy over. I'll just go ahead and cut that. It basically clears it. And, oh, I always forget to turn off clip view automation record. And I can just paste that into the modulation scene, view, whatever. And I guess I didn't need to cut it from here, but at least this idea that I'm having right now, I can just paste it here. And let's select it all and drag it so it's just a little bit shorter. We could even do things like, you know, flip it or speed it up. So we've got, you know, an alternate version of, you know, you can almost think of this as like a drawn LFO in a way. Go ahead and hit simplify envelope. I really love how it smooths out things. So yeah, so now we have the dual automation modulation, that's a mouthful, going on there. I think I want to try to play with adding a little tone in the line. Cool. Kind of like what's happening with that. And let's go ahead and simplify that. I'll simplify this and then copy it again, just so I have that on the board. And we can just change the starting point to throw it off from the other iterations of this particular pattern. And then let's choose automate. Drag this out. Let's go ahead and lengthen it just a bit. Multi-band, ktgran, preset, thrash, split. That is a mouthful. I think the tones plus the ktgran are adding in. I think I want to kind of thrash this knob here also, just for shits and giggles. Sometimes I like to just do violent, take all pent up aggressions of the day or night out on the knobs. Yeah, there's that one preset that has that sort of feedback loop that does that strange scale that I would love to hunt down, and it's not my favorite effect or sound. Cool. So let's go ahead and simplify. I love that option in Ableton 10. Wish you could just MIDI map to make that happen. Yeah, there's that effect again. But, you know, this is sort of like the bane or the boon of doing some preset thrashing. I think if we went into all of these and adjusted them down one, we might get lucky and have ourselves a whole different. We either might hear that effect so much more, or I'm going to go ahead and copy this here. So now we have our multi-band basically going through another ktgranulator that's got a bit of preset tomfoolery happening. Very robotic, spacey. You know, if I was trying to be a sound designer for, say, like Pixar's WALL-E movie, these would be some great sounds to work with. Like, I do like some of the cool dynamic swells. I do think that this here corpus added a lot of some of those robotic swelling sounds. So let's go ahead and I think if we really wanted to get crazy, like extra crazy, One thing we could do is do a stereo split. That is not what I'm looking for. Let's see if I can just duplicate that. Hopefully nothing crashes. So here we'll choose left only, balance that to the left. Although ktgranulator is, you can send stereo in a way, but it processes things in a sort of mono way. As you can hear from this effect. Cool. Interesting. It's almost as though maybe it's only processing the left side. How about that? Okay, so ktgranulator apparently only takes the left side in. I'm sure Salty Grain, Cohen's new sort of version of the plugin, does not just process the left side only. ktgranulator is super old. It was one of the first plugins I ever had. I think I've used it in just about every song ever. I love it. Most for the ambient stuff, I'm doing really subtle stuff with it. Yeah, so this is just stereo madness at this point. Yeah, it stinks that we can't duplicate, you know, our channel doesn't also duplicate all the modulation and automations. That would be slick. There maybe is a way to do it, but I am not sure what that way is. So yeah, I mean, we could really put any number of effects in here. It doesn't have to be this ktgranulator preset thrashing nonsense. It's sounding wacky. Go ahead and add on the end of it all a little bit of Valhalla Supermassive. This is a freebie. I recommend going to the Valhalla website and picking up a copy of this one. It is awesome. Like, can do so many crazy varieties of reverb and chorus and delay. I like some of the really long reverbs on it. It's really smooth sounding and spacious to me. It's obviously not the best procedural or DSP based reverb, and I say DSP or procedural versus say convolution. It's not the best out there, but it is pretty nice. I also really love, I mean, the fact that it's free makes it amazing to me. There's not a ton of free awesome reverbs plugins out there. Aether 2C, I think is the name of the company. That is one of my all-time favorites. It sounds amazing. It's so smooth and liquidy and just buttery for procedural. I think it may also have a little convolution built in. Maybe not. I might be wrong about that, but maybe we'll mess with 2AC's Aether. It does, we'll mess with it at some point, but it does take a ton of CPU. So I'm just going to leave it out of this experiment for today. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is, I think I like to do often, Let's just grab a looper, record some of what we've got going on here. I think I'll drop a utility so that when I hit overdub, I can sort of fade it out. Actually, no, let's start up with that. Go ahead and fade that in. Hold down shift to get our finite knob drag movements. Actually finite, more like incremental. Now go ahead and hit this plus button. And we're overdubbing, so I'm going to just drag this down so we can create a seamless loop. Awesome. Now we can free ourselves up some cycles. Turn this off. And we've got, you know, it's not going to be quite as generative, but what I'm hearing as coming out of our effects that we've just done with the preset thrashing, you know, we're getting a certain sound that's, I'd say, you know, you've got about 30 seconds and, you know, you pretty much heard most of what that sound is going to have to say, if you will. I'll just leave these in here. Call this stereo split multi-band. And we could even take it one step further and drop that into a wet and dry so we could fade in and out this whole racket. Since it's a rack, you see right there. This is a racket. It's too late for bad puns. Too late. But the only unfortunate thing is if we want to map any of these, we have to basically map all the way up. I wish you could just drill, like, you know, turn on the map on the master parent and then just click on any one down the line and it would just like map across groups. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way in Ableton. So you could save this stereo multi-band split ktgran. You know, preset, whatever, and, you know, have that for your own use down the line. I'll go ahead and include this Max for Live patch in with this, with the project files. You'll just have to open it up and sort of remap the path to your whatever plugin you want to do this with. And make sure, at least on PC, you got double slashes. Have no idea what the syntax would be on a Mac, but I'm sure it's online somewhere. And so then save that, and then all the instances will then, you know, have that correct pathing in it, which is pretty, I love that abstraction with Max for Live. So we've got this looper here. Go ahead and turn all these off. I don't think we need this simpler for now. Let's get our reverb going again. Now, I guess when you guys open this project back up, you might get some errors, you know, missing plugin or whatever. But again, I'm going to try to use as many free plugins as I can. Oftentimes, you know, I'm going to mess around with, you know, like I really love my Melda plugins. Some of my most favorite plugins ever, because they've got this random section here. You can randomize the preset and then randomize stuff within the presets. I wish you could map these to MIDI, probably with auto hotkey or something like that. I could make the mouse jump to a certain spot and send a mouse click. I think I saw a Max for Live patch that actually did that. It did move your mouse for you and could send clicks. So I could even explore that Max for Live patch to try to do something there. Yeah, M Transformer is just for sound designing and crazy aleatoric, weird, pseudo melodic, tonal, whatever. Yeah, one of my favorites. So anyway, I'll go ahead and remove that. We'll play with some Meldas, some other third-party VSTs later. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And it's going to take a while because with the looper, one really interesting feature that not a lot of people maybe realize, Ableton just choking, is that with the looper, you can see this project file here is 11 megabytes. And the reason for that is because basically with the looper, it will save the audio file inside of the ALS, which is great because you never lose track of that. Obviously, it can make your ALS projects huge if you have a bunch of instances of looper. Actually, I'm curious if I duplicate this, will it save two separate? Will this become 20-something megabytes? Or will it just kind of reuse the same data twice? No, it looks like it duplicates it. So yeah, okay. That's interesting to note. The looper I kind of like to have. You can basically have these ALS files that just have, you know, sample data inside of them, you know, and then you can just share out just the ALS file by itself. I think for the sake of this particular project and keeping the zip file for you all to download at sort of a reasonable size, I'm probably going to... Actually, let me try something. If I can... The cool thing about Looper is you can drag and you can always get the file and Ableton automatically drops it, you know, in the record folder. Yeah, and since it's 32-bit, we get a lot of dynamic data there. I kind of want to... I wanted to open it up. Let's try to open it up in RX7, because I have that set. I wanted to resample it down, because automatically it makes the file, you know, whatever your project's rate is, and 32 bits. And I'm going to change my sample editor to be... Let's go ahead and use Wavesaur. That's another freebie for Windows. Highly recommend snatching that one up. Incredibly... Let's go ahead and get that into our video zone. Incredibly useful. Let's see, process. First I'm going to normalize it. There we go. Let's change our bit depth down to... I'm just going to, for the sake of this test, go down to 8 bits. And then resample it down to... Yeah, why not? 16. It'll sound gritty, but maybe a little gritty. I'm just curious with this test if we load in, say, a low sample rate, low bit depth sample into the looper, drag and drop it in there, and then save our project if we get, you know, a smaller file size on the ALS there. Let me go ahead and just, yeah. Oh, unable to save. Well, that's no good. That might be a shortcoming of... Shoot. Well, it's almost 4 a.m. here. Let's just go ahead and, you know, if you don't at first succeed, try again, as they say. Let's see, bit depth converter 8. I'll go ahead just now and save this. I think it just wouldn't save over the Ableton file. It just become unlocked somehow. Let's see, sketch, samples. Yeah, we'll call this, just call this multi-band ktgran SFX nonsense. All right, so that's saved. Let's go ahead and resample it down again. It'll sound a bit lo-fi. Honestly, I kind of love certain sounds to be really lo-fi. When I first got into making music, I was working with a 386 SX, and I had an 8-bit sound card. I think I finally did upgrade to a 16-bit Gravis ultrasound, old school sound card, so I could record in 16-bit 44, but I think for the longest time I was only using 8-bit and like 22 or less kilohertz, and I just kind of fell in love. There was like a nostalgic thing for me with low bit depth samples. Like if I'm going to use samples, you know, I love mostly working with DSP on these kind of sketching experiments, but if I'm going to use samples, I want them to just sound, you know, like lo-fi garbage. No, sometimes, yes. Okay, so let me go ahead and clear this. Oh, it's still in overdub mode. Funny. Okay, and let's see. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a few samples we don't need. Do just a quick maintenance. Now, if I drag this in, looks like it imported it. That's good. And I can hear a little bit of the lo-fi-ness. Yeah, a little crusty. Go ahead and delete that. And now if I save this project, I just want to see if we drop. Oh yeah. So there you have it. I don't know why, but Ableton just likes to hiccup sometimes. And it does that more with Ableton 10, I've noticed. So I can delete the original sample because basically with the looper, it embeds the sound file into the ALS. It's an interesting behavior, but I really kind of love. I love the just love the vibe of that functionality. What can I say? So yeah, let's try doing some modulation. Yeah, so I guess we've learned that the looper, automatically everything is 32-bit and whatever sample rate your project is set at, but you can drag and drop in all kinds of odd, apparently 8-bit, 16 kilohertz lo-fi files, so something to keep in mind there. If you wanted to just have like a really lightweight ALS file that had all of your sounds in it. Obviously, that's just me. I like, you know, to keep it clean, like one file, you know, no dependency, no other files kind of running around and to get lost. Obviously, Ableton is great because it keeps everything in your samples folder. It does a really good job of sort of, you know, you can hit collect all and save. I think for most people, probably 99% of people, that's going to work great. For me, I really love, you know, leveraging like the looper in a lot of cases. For my Off the Sky projects, you know, I'll definitely have just whatever. I'll be working like most people. For these abstract experiments, though, I like to kind of keep, you know, just do things differently than I normally do it in the studio. For my commercial work and the Off the Sky projects also. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and automate. Actually, I want to group this. And unfortunately, when you group stuff, it stops playing. And I think what I'm going to do is have this automated, let's see, and mapped to, and you really have to be careful when you're dragging automation because this middle section is record and you can basically lose, oh shit. Well, case in point, you can lose your sample that way. So what were we gonna do? We're gonna dig back up our sample and drag it back in there. Actually, first clear it. Oh, I guess it was working in the background. There we go. And show automation. So yeah, you got to be careful when you're automating the playhead for your looper that you don't accidentally erase whatever you got going on in there. Cool. And I want the start point to sort of happen before here. So, and I'm going to go ahead and make a, let's go ahead and make these legato, Mr. Roboto. And I'm going to have this one start out in the play mode and go down to stop mode. Yeah, and I'm not going to loop this one. Well, actually, no. Yeah, we will loop this one, and I'll explain later why. And let's see, we'll make this one light gray and make this one black. And this one will be full on stop, end clip. Cool. So for live performancing, we've got, we'll just name them play, pause, if you will. It's not really going to be a pause. We'll see. And then stop. So if we hit stop here, we see our loop stopped. I'm going to go ahead and make these all, well, I guess since this one isn't, well, this one won't be set to loop. This one is set to loop. Cool. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and put the stop in on this one. Set it to loop. And then set these two to legato. I guess they're all set to legato. Okay. So we've got play. Stop. See here, and I think we don't want that to loop, so when we hit stop, I think we'll just make it go to there. It's going to go to the end point here. And then what I'm going to do here is basically we'll just go ahead and group all this, and this stop clip is going to turn off everything. So for live performance setup, you would have this play clip turn on our main rack here, as well as hit play on the looper. Did it do it? No, it didn't seem to do it. Maybe it needs to be, let's see, stop, play, I think. Okay. Yep. Pause. We're going to have the whole rack on. And stop, we're going to have no, it should, I guess we'll have it turn off here. I think so. It's 6. We'll have the clip end. Done. Okay. So play. Cool. Now we've got a pause section basically, so, and it's set to legato. That means the clip can keep playing even though we're not going to hear this sound. In fact, I think what I want to do is under here, I'm going to set this to just play, but I'm going to have utility right here. that is set to 0 on pause. So basically the sound source from the looper is not going to go through on pause. But the loop will still be playing. So when you hit play again, it basically will start it back up right where, you know, you can see the looper is just continuing to go. So in a live performance setting, this is really useful because you can have the sound come through when you want it to. You can have it basically not go through when you want it to. And so we still get, you know, the effects tails. Like if we have a grain delay here, and we hit play. And let me go ahead and just turn this back up. So when we hit pause, we'll hear our tail, but it will sort of just fade out, right? And then when we need to move on to another section, we can just hit stop. And eventually it should shut off. Now, I don't think the automation I've set up for this needs to happen sooner. Yeah. There, so it shuts that off. And one thing we can do on the stop is basically just add a modulation. So we've set our 6 to be sort of the stopping point, and we can just have the modulation, you know, giving us a fade out. Obviously, we could make the stop point farther than 6. So there, now play, we've got all this fun stuff going. And in the play clip, we can add in whatever crazy other automations we want. Let's go ahead and do that. Cool. So we can get rid of this empty automation space here. I think, is it shift drag? Yeah, holding down shift kind of pulls the whole thing. And we can set the endpoint here. Nice. And I'm not sure why I just got rid of supermassive. I think I want to leave it in there. Definitely worth checking this one out. There's so many this wacky stereotype effects, and you know, especially once you start automating stuff. So we definitely got ourselves a bizarro creature going on here. So if we want to pause it, we got ourselves a little tail, but then, you know, the audio stops coming through, and then we can hit play again, and it sort of just like will pick up right back, you know, where we left off. I mean, this technique of these 3 clips, play, pause, stop, you know, it may work also with, you know, like a sampler or whatever, but I like to use it with the looper. You can also just, you know, not have a looper. You could, you know, have some of this, what I like to call sort of passive effects, you know, using the vinyl distortion and the crackle set on. And whatever effects you want beyond that. You know, this is basically a passive sound generator because you don't really even have to have a playhead playing for this to make sound for you. You You can use a white noise source. You can, any kind of tone generation. You can turn a crackle into a tone using the feedback settings. I think it's MS2. And it's funny that this resonator actually kind of turns when you lower the pitch on it, like almost to a spring reverb sort of sound. I kind of like that. And, Doctor Who. It sounds like a theremin. And then you can further take that note, and do whatever. You can just make it a crazy bass note. And I want to try something here where we have several chains worth. We'll just call this low. Oh, I did it again. I don't know what I'm hitting to make. Maybe it's, let's see, low, high. And let's map our knob here to switch between, and on the high one, I think I'm gonna, oh, did I not? Let's see, map that. Yes. For this one, we'll choose a, and I think we could add in something that give it a little bit of high-end grit, the erosion. There we go. Yeah, the erosion, or I'm sorry, the chain thing only sends sound through. Now we can just basically process each chain in whatever crazy, stupid ways we feel like. Add in a or like a band pass situation. Yep. Definitely some. Wow, there's really tweaky high-end, almost like the early 2000s Mill Plateau style or Raster style of just, almost abusive use of high-end and glitches. Yeah, almost subliminal, chirpy kind of sound coming out of this one now. And I think for this, I want to get the another resonator makeshift. Has an interesting room feel to it right there. Very minimal, experimental sounding right now. So we could just basically hit record here. And start to do a little bit of a... You can also type in the numbers. Obviously, we could have as many of these as we want and jump to them however we want. I'm going to pull in the LFO. That we messed with in a previous sketch. I'm going to choose the random and let's just go ahead and map it to this. Now we're getting a super wide range here. Obviously we could just stretch all these out here or distribute the ranges equally, which and for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and mute this one. So we've got, oh, I guess I need to, I always forget to turn that off. It's the bane of my existence. We'll just call this one mute. So now we've kind of got the LFO pushing, you know, random sounds versus, you know, the way I had them automated, which is a little more predictable, which honestly, if you know, wanted to track this out, you know, over here, you know, you would just draw the automations however you wanted. You could compose a whole song just with, you know, automations if you really wanted to get crazy. I have tried to do that, and sometimes it's a lot of fun. I've had some really interesting, fascinating results. And inside of this low channel, we could put more effects in there. We could, if we want to get rhythmic, it's almost hard to hear that bass. I like to sometimes add a little bit of overdrive to a bass to give it some overtones. And we can modulate this to only happen if you were wanting to perform this live. You could just link that overdrive up to a MIDI knob and turn it on whenever you fancied. Noise maker, looper, SFX, and I just want to try a compressor sidechained from our noisemaker. And maybe put the compressor before this effect here, so we get a bit of tail. Now this allows or forces the sound from our looper to only come through when we're not getting a lot of sound coming out of our noisemaker track. It's kind of an abnormal use of sidechaining, but then what I'm doing here with these sketches, it's all abnormal use of something. So now I'm going to pull, we had our multi-band stereo split effect here. I'm going to put that here just to see what happens. And I guess it's not on, so we have this. It doesn't look like it's on. Oh, I had turned it off. Huh, interesting. Not necessarily what I consider any good, but it's definitely something. Let me see if we're getting our... Yeah, it looks like we got our plugins here. from the I'm not experiencing the stereo split, but maybe that's because I just need to change some of the presets around. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and record a looper of that. Nice. I'm going to drag this over here. Process. Normalize. The depth converter. Resample. Again, Wavesaur freebie. Got a lot of useful functions inside of it. You can also run VST plugins inside of it also. Unable to save file. Well, let's go ahead and save as then. Somehow the file is locked or not unlocking properly from Ableton. Let's delete that one. There's our number 2 there. And I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer here. Obviously, we don't need a lot of this crap. And let's drag in, 16 8-bits. Cool. Looks like it took. And we'll call this number 2. Go ahead and get rid of that one. I don't think we need that one either. And then here we get rid of this looper. And you can get rid of these effects here. Or maybe I'll just get rid of the ktgranulator thing in there. You can really add in whatever effects you want inside of these multi-bands and get some crazy stereo nonsense happening for you. Takes a bit of setup, but all worth it in my opinion. Worth learning the patience for anyway to do that kind of stuff. Looks like we've only got one channel coming out for some reason. Left, right. Looks like only the left side is coming out. Because we had to change this for ktgranulator. Yeah, there we go. I mean, we could definitely get some interesting sort of volume modulations just with low, medium, high split of tremolos on both the left and right sides. Cool. I'm curious, our original tone source, what happens when we change that? Let's see. Tone band split effector. Sometimes I just, just have to pull words out of your butt. But it's good to name stuff for future reference, in my humble opinion. All very minimal and sparse, and let's go ahead and get rid of the reverb on this one. If I was working on a sci-fi game, I think some of these sounds would actually be pretty useful as like console, just ambient stuff for, walking around in the background. So yeah, just about done here. Probably spent way too much time. I should get some sleep anyway. But let me just pull in from one of our previous sketches. I'm just curious what one of these nutty beats would sound like. Another plugin I really love is this filterjam, as it can add some really nice. This is also a freebie from Audio Thing, one of my favorite plugin makers. They have randomizer buttons in all of their plugins, and you can do fun things with that randomize button. Although I wish, I could take that and link it up to like a MIDI keyboard key or knob. One thing I like to do is give myself some nice arbitrary lanes for all of the knobs inside of this one. There's not too many. And let's lock random on the mix and turn on our clip, automation recorder thingy, and start hitting I'm just sort of thrashing the random button, and you can see it's recording whatever positions. And I'll just do this until the knobs down there start moving on their own. So that's when all of the automation unlinked lanes have automation recorded into them. I like the resonant tones that come out of this filter. Audio Thing, check them out. They make some really cool lo-fi sounding plugins, great for that lo-fi scene. Their recent one they just released called Wires, really impressive. Alright, so I'll turn this off and we'll just watch these kind of move on their own. We can see here it recorded the random business. Try a little bit of that supermassive, and maybe some of the ktgranulator in there. See, another case where I would want to... I'm just hitting the up and down arrow keys right now, kind of just thrashing through these presets. I think it would be cool to, yeah, maybe pull in one of these Max for Live ones we just made with... I don't know why that one's still open, but... And then I can also add in a wet and dry on that too. And I could link these up to MIDI knobs, put a MIDI knob linked up to the presets. Possibilities are limitless. And map this to here, and then map this to here. ktgran. Let's see, VST. I am going to save this as a preset. Yep, and that way I can just pull it in whenever I want. Alright, so that's all, folks. Well, shoot, now I just realized I forgot to put on a little video, but, you know, some days we're just gonna keep that little fun tidbitty out. There's no reason to have to be a slave to a routine or doing the same things over and over and over again. Yeah. Cool. So anyway, let's go ahead and save this. And call it. Hope you all enjoyed this. I know there's a lot of weird concepts, this whole setting up loop. And we could even add follow actions to these so that it jumps randomly from one to the next. That's, you know, or make it so that, we'll save that for another day. Cool. I'm just gonna let this sort of play out, and until next time, everybody.